Hi, it's Coach Taylor again, back at High Desert State Prison with our interviews with the captains. And I've just got news that we're going to have other interviews to tag onto this, so other administrative executives. So I'm so happy about that. And our captain really kind of let us know that custody is really on board with what we're doing with rehabilitation, which is exciting. Now we have another captain, so we're going to cut to another interview. And I think you're going to find really, really fascinating all the things that are going on at High Desert State Prison, which is actually, in my mind, the direction corrections is going to go across the United States. Captain Lane, thank you very, very much. I know you're busy. You have a busy yard. You have a lot to do, but you took out the time to... It might be a half a mile away from, you have to walk a half mile to be here in this conference room, and I really appreciate your time. I know you've got a lot of things to do. You captains, you work a lot of long hours, and many more hours than really I think you clock in at. You spend a lot of time making certain that your yards are operating optimally. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Many more than your hours, 24 hours you're on this.
Yes.
And how long have you been a captain?
A few months. So 3 months.
So it's new for you.
Yes.
And you come into being a captain when there's this huge, massive push for programming.
Yes.
What is that? How does that complicate the duties of a captain?
I was formerly a correctional counselor 3 for the prison.
Oh gosh, really?
So yes.
So you were a CC3, so you're used to sitting down with the prisoner and building plans and looking at rehabilitation.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So the rehabilitative part of the job is I've seen a lot of progress in the last few years, and I think it's coming a long way with our department.
It's interesting that a CC3 could actually now be a captain. I don't know. I've been with the department providing programming as a volunteer since 2005. I don't think I've ever heard of a CC3 actually making it to a captain, because a CC3 really is more about programming than corrections. But here you are, a former CC3, and now you are a captain of an entire yard.
Yes.
I think that's remarkable. That, to me, what that says is the department is really looking at permitting individuals the opportunity for change. Would you say that's correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I think that the department's definitely recognizing that we need to make some solid changes, and we've been making those changes. And the department's from when I started, it was a tough department. But now we have a different focus, a different mission, and that mission is to ensure not only to ensure custody issues and protecting the lives of our communities and our state, but it's also to prepare inmates for the day they are released. And I think we're making solid efforts at this point in time.
Here's the problem as I see it. Yesterday we were here on all the yards. There was one yard with 4 alarms, 4 codes, 4.
Right.
How can an officer feel like, I want to invest my time in rehabilitation, when there's codes going off all the time? This happened, this fight happened. How can you reconcile in your mind when you have 4 codes, and that's just not like a minor thing, that's somebody's getting hurt, and you still are mandated and actually excited about programming? How can you reconcile that in your mind?
Unlike a police officer, okay, a correctional officer's job is very, very tough. You have to get to know inmates. You have to relate to inmates. So even though we have the custody side to where we have to deal with the alarms and the violence, we also have the other side of our mission, is to ensuring that we're meeting the goals of the department and assisting inmates in preparation for parole. And the reason why we do that is because it makes our state better. When they're released and they go out and they become a productive citizen, get a job, they're no longer a drain on the system. We're sending productive people back out to the states, to our state, and to our cities, and to our communities. And so we have a dual role And in the state of California, our department's basically the major player in that. And
Yes.
I actually enjoy what we're doing.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Well, coming from a CC3, but are you unique, or are most of the officers saying, actually, this is kind of interesting? Are they slowly?
We're getting a lot of buy-in.
Really?
And, yeah, and
Wow.
well, this is the thing. Idle hands do the devil's work, correct? So
True.
the busier you keep inmates,
Yes.
the more productive that you keep them going, the less violence we have. And even though we have violence, it really has kind of curved. And
Really?
so we're starting to see progress on our yards. And inmates' attitudes are changing, okay? Because 7 years ago, 8 years ago, inmates had no hope. They had a life sentence,
I see.
right?
And if you have no hope,
if you
why
have
not beat somebody up?
Right? And the common saying was, well, he's a lifer. What does it matter if he stabbed another guy?
I
Right?
see.
Why should we even prosecute him because he's staying here anyways?
I see.
Now, I get to deal with inmates daily, and their attitudes are, hey, you know what? And it's funny because these guys have been down 20, 30 years, and they're like, hey, I have a shot. If I keep
Wow.
trying and putting myself a step forward, okay, making change for myself, it's a possibility I'll get a date, right? I had an inmate off my yard mention something about what was it, 10 steps forward, 2 steps back, you still got 8 steps forward, right?
That's a GOGI tool.
Okay, right? And
That's our
I,
GOGI reality check.
I was like, what? And it made sense to me. I was like, hey, that's great, man. That's actually, I get it. 8 steps forward, okay?
Yes.
So they are actually
Wow.
taking to heart what's being put out in our ILTAG groups.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
this is the thing. We have inmates that want to change, and we have inmates that don't want to change. So the inmates that have hope and actually see a light at the end of the tunnel, they're actually changing their attitudes, okay? And if they really want to change, they will, right?
Yeah.
So it takes that person to individually buy in and want to be part of something bigger, and instead of that lifestyle. And
interesting.
when you're willing to buy in and you make more effort, you'd be
You're gonna
surprised
see
at
the
the outcome.
rewards.
Yep.
Yeah. Why do you think it is that even with GOGI, we have a lot of LWOPs that love GOGI? They don't yet have hope to go home.
Well, no, they do.
Okay.
They do. So last year, the governor had sent out a list asking for 10 inmates, including life without inmates, to be recognized by the governor and have their sentence commuted.
Wow.
Or drop down to life with
the
possibility.
What
And
do the corrections officers feel about that? Do they feel like, wait a second, you're giving guys off? Are they stuck in that old mind frame that they just pretend that they're changing? Or are they really seeing that change is possible?
This is the thing. Back to the buy-in, right?
Yes.
So the inmates that actually see, even the ones with life without, say, hey, there's actually a possibility I could walk out those gates one day. They stop doing the things that they're not supposed to be doing. They're like, hey, I don't want any part of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to sit back over here and do my time, and
go
I don't
home.
want to go home.
But just like your guy that said his GOGI tool reality
Yeah.
check, 10 steps forward, 2 steps back, I'm still 8 steps ahead. So
Yep.
even when there are making mistakes, do you think they're getting their footing and back on the right track earlier instead of tossing in the towel?
No, I think the buy-in's still new, okay, but they're starting to see progress because they're starting to see inmates get out of prison that weren't ever going to get out.
I see.
So when you take one inmate and the word spreads like wildfire,
Yes,
hey, he really did get out, okay, the effect on the population's like, I might want to curve any type of violence
I see.
because that's one thing that's looked at.
Yeah.
It's all the way across the board. If we make a recommendation, the governor's office reviews what he's done while he's in prison.
I see.
And if he's continuing to choose to go down this violent path, it's going to be a denial across the board.
Right.
But if he shows the last 10 years, he's had 115, he's got all these chronos that are saying he's going out of his way, he's volunteering for programs, he's being an advocate for veterans groups or GOGI or, you know, a leader, and getting letters from different groups.
Yeah.
Those are the things they need to have, okay? And they also need to have support on the outside, so when they're preparing for parole, that they're set up and so they can get right out. They need to provide proof that they got a job and they have a house, stability, but this is where the door opens. They got to make the positive changes.
And coming from a CC3, you know all those steps.
Yep.
You absolutely know all the steps. So it's awesome that they would see that your skill set, your corrections background, but your CC3 understanding of the big picture allows you to be in the position that you're in. We're so grateful for being able to be welcomed here by your warden and supported like we are. And the captains have just been across the board. Whatever you need, we're willing to do it. So we want to thank you, because we walk onto a yard and always custody's there. What do you need? How can we help? And they'll ask about the programs or ask about the tools. Tell me a little bit more about what they're learning. So our experience when we walk onto your yard, everyone is absolutely engaged.
Right. I actually, I was on the yard the other day, and I was ear hustling. How about that? I was listening to some inmates on the patio talk, and they were actually talking about using GOGI tools, and I'm like,
really?
What are they talking? And no, don't get mad. You got to use
Belly
the
breathing, boss of my brain,
light
5
second light switch. You got to be the boss of your brain. Old habit, new action, right? And it was like, what is he talking about? I was like, wow, right on.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe it's working.
Awesome, awesome. Well, the more we reduce incidents, the more we get that kind of talk, I think we have an awesome collaboration. We want this to be a solid community collaboration. And you can look at them and say, good guy, he made it.
Before I came to the Department of Corrections, I was a probation officer, right?
Oh, wow.
And I worked with juveniles, right? And it's funny you said that, because this guy's walking down my street, and I'm in the house, and my wife answers the door, knock at the door, and he's selling these coupons for this adventure park in Visalia, California, right? And he's selling these coupons, and my wife's like, hey, come over here, Tony, and look at these are pretty good coupons. And I was like, all right. He goes, oh my God, Probation Officer Lane, right?
No,
and
are
I was
you
like,
kidding?
I was like, what do we do? Do we shut the door or what?
Yes,
right?
yes.
And he goes, no, man. He goes, listen. He goes, I'm doing so much better. He goes, this is a part-time job that I take for, you know,
Wow.
he goes, I got a full-time job. I'm taking classes online. And he goes, my life's so much better. I'm telling you, I'm doing great. I got a wife and a kid. And
Oh, that's beautiful.
I was like, and my wife's looking at me like, okay, is this weird? But
Yes.
I'm like, good, man. You know, that's
Awesome.
And then so every year after that, he came back and
sell you more coupons.
yeah, and he's like, oh man, I got promotion at my job, you know, and so
wonderful.
rehabilitation happens.
Yeah, awesome.
It takes the person to do it, though. You know?
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you personally. I know what you do out on your yards. I know you bend over backwards. You have all this custody responsibility, but you and your entire team bends over backwards to make sure that these men get as much GOGI as they want. And by the sounds of it, they're talking GOGI on your yard, for which I'm very grateful.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Captain. We'll let you go take care of our guys. We'll be out there a little bit later today.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.